River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Niner Nuts. I am Dan, here along with James. James, say hello.
What's up, Niner Nation? Or the football world, I should say.
Yes, hello, football world. We are joined here today with our draft guru and resident Commanders and Washington expert, Steve. Steve, say hello.
Oh, let's go!
Yes, today is a wonderful celebration. If I look a little tired, it's because I've been partying a little bit too. Just kidding. But 3 days ago, on the 20th, we will no longer remember it as the day that Hitler's assassination attempt failed. It will be the day that Daniel Snyder, some would argue an equally terrible person, was finally let go from his position as the owner and several other positions within the Washington Commanders organization. Gentlemen, we all have our drinks. Mine is one of the last Yinglings from when, James, you came over for my father's service, in my beautiful Budweiser commemorative 49ers cup that lights up whenever they score a touchdown. Gentlemen, what else are we drinking today?
Well, I have Talisker Storm, a nice smoky scotch from the only distillery on the Isle of Skye. So this is what I'm drinking, and I'm drinking it in, you can barely see the little writing, but this is my Fly Eagles Fly Scotch glass. So, and I have it on my Philadelphia Phillies coaster.
Oh, beautiful. I have my Giants coaster. I put, it's a ceramic. I don't know why. I have this 4-pack of Giants coasters. I can't even remember when I bought them anymore. But no, Steve, how are you celebrating being our Washington Commanders insider?
Yes, no, I'm celebrating with an Altmore Foggy Moss single malt Scotch from it's a 12-year Scotch, and the 12 years is important because that actually goes back to, if you think about this was bottled during the Shanahan era of DC. So there's the tie-in.
Beautiful. That is hilarious.
I am just drinking it in a regular glass, so little tumbler glass thing here.
Okay.
Right on.
I do love the background, Steve. That is high class. That is high class right there. Guys, fans, if you don't know, but that is the Photoshop owners standoff that Steve did for us that helped sell some shirts for charity, which are no longer available because, yes, the sale of the Commanders is final. So sorry if you didn't get one. It was limited edition to raise money for charity. It is being dismissed now as a shirt from Niner Nuts, but we do have big news on our merchandise, but that's later in the show.
Yes. So I think before we keep going any further, gentlemen, let's have a little bit of cheers to celebrate, a little virtual cheers.
Cheers.
Clink.
To a new era.
A new era.
Sweet taste of victory.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, Dan Snyder is officially out. Dan has been voted out, as my shirt says, in a unanimous 31-0 vote, including, I just love to mention that it's the Packers CEO or whoever, because the whole town owns that place. But anyway, they did have one representative. Yeah.
actually, technically, Dan, don't you remember when we went to visit the Packers stadium? The stocks in the Packers is sort of a formality. They don't necessarily own the team. They own really a piece of paper that says that they donated to have it basically is a donation to have the stadium renovated, and they get an actual stock which has no value in the team. So
that is true. Thank you for reminding me. I just not to fully side tangent off of that. It's fascinating. That's fascinating to me for another episode. Steve, again, since you are the resident Commanders expert here, we had to have you on. And for the listeners that for some reason might not know that much about it, just please explain to us the legacy that Mr. Snyder's leaving behind. Let's talk about our favorite exploit, let's call it, that he was a part of. My personal favorite is the meeting with John Gruden and how their relationship kind of started off rocky. But please let us know a little bit more about why it's such a glorious day that Dan Snyder is leaving.
So it's a glorious day because from the moment he came in 2000, no, I'm sorry, 99. I have the number of days here. It was 8,822 days in his reign of terror. That's 24 years, 1 month, and 25 days. But who's counting?
It's such a finite calculation.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, May 25th of 99 is when he bought it. But since he came in, he has been a complete embarrassment to the team. And he is completely he has the worst awareness of what he actually looks like in the public. He just, whatever he says has always been the final thing. Like whatever he says goes. And in some cases, for some people that works, but it's impressive that it has never worked for him. Not even once. He's never been on the right side of history at any point in this last 24 years, which is impressive. I'm trying to think of somebody who's had a worse record of their entire existence than Dan Snyder, and it's hard to come up with that. But I can do this. I have I printed off a ton of. I can do this Alex Jones style where he's got papers everywhere on his desk or whatever, and he's like yelling about the frogs are gay or whatever. Like I can do it that way, or we can do this a little more methodically. I don't care. I just thought that it'd be cool to see some of the things that he has been directly responsible for. And I'm not talking about just the most recent stuff that's come out, because everybody knows about the toxic work environment. Everybody knows about the sexual harassment stuff. Like that's not the new stuff. Some of the stuff I want to talk about is like the obscure stuff that people may not know about. I think that's going to be important for context on why Commanders fans hate him so much. I
agree. I think having a little bit of a track history, like some of the bigger bullet points between 99 and when did this investigation start? Did it start all the way in 2020?
No, it was 2018 is when the 2018 was the Washington Post expose on some of the the incidents, particularly with the cheerleaders and stuff. That was really what fired it up, was 2018. After that, it started ramping up in 2020. Of course, 2020 when COVID was happening, there was nothing going on NFL wise, so it was a good time for the news organizations, the Washington Post, and New York Times. They put out a lot of those hard hitting things in that kind of dead time, which really amplified.
They could really hone in and just like, okay, we've heard these things, kind of like with Louis. We've heard Louis's done this, but let's really look into it.
Right.
Okay.
But some of the things I want to talk about are like going back even to right after he showed up. So like the first thing he did pretty much when he came in July of 2000 was he charged admission to training camp. That was the first ever, like anytime, like all training camps always used to be free. Anybody could walk up and just, kind of watch their team play, because who cares? It's just a glorified practice session. So he charged $10 per person and $10 for parking, $20 just to walk in for training camp. And everybody was all up in arms about that immediately. And so everybody's like, but I mean, it in his mind, he's like, well, all right, well, we can monetize this and I can get a return on my investment immediately by doing this. And so, but that it never really stopped there. Everything like, I'm gonna skip over some stuff here too, because like the Schottenheimer firing is in 2002, and I really want to cover that in a minute too. But some of the things like let's see here. The credit card situation. Okay, so he declared in 2005 that the only credit card that would be accepted for season ticket purchases was the back then Redskins Extra Points MasterCard. That lasted 2 days before MasterCard said, "Stop doing this. We're getting so many complaints," and people are like, "No, I don't even want your card anymore. If this is how it's going to be." So he reversed course 2 days later, and because MasterCard asked to change that policy back. That's just like again, so unaware of like, no, I'm going to bring everything in house, and we're going to have our own credit card, and that's the only way you're going to be able to pay for anything. It's just like having that such control over your own ecosystem. And
season ticket holders have already hated him since then.
Since then, and it's only gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. He raised in 2006, again, the year after he did the credit card thing, he raised lower bowl ticket prices 39% year over year.
Oh, wow.
That was
crap.
Yeah. So if you want, and by the way, this, I can pinpoint this, and this is in 2006, is the start of when every other stadium started raising their prices in relation to because they saw that people were still buying those lower bowl seats, right? And so they said, oh, well, there's obviously some more elasticity in the pricing here. So they all started raising prices. And then, in combination with that, of course, you have all of the Ticketmaster and all those other, bots that were jumping in there too, to buy things. But this was the start. Dan Snyder was the start of this whole spike in NFL ticket pricing. And then that's almost 15-20 years ago, if you think about it.
Yeah, so, well, somebody had to pay for Albert Haynesworth's contract, and it wasn't going to be Dan Snyder.
Well, this predates the Albert Haynesworth contract by 4 years. So, yeah. Now, the other one that comes to mind, too, is he was the first person to profit off of 9/11 in the NFL.
What?
Directly. No. So this is a great one,
what?
Right? So in I think this was 2007, 6 or 7. Yeah, 2006, I guess. In September of that year, they released special edition commemorative hats with the Pentagon logo on the side. It was a red, white, and blue Pentagon patch sewn on the side. And yeah, some teams later on would put that towards charities and other things. There's no record for this having any charity associated with it. He literally just sold this and got the profits off of anybody that bought this hat for the Pentagon remembrance. And it all went to his pocket, essentially.
I think we just found our clickbait title for this episode.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I
we were
didn't
talking
know
about that yesterday too. Yeah, we'll just throw a bunch of keywords in there and see what sticks. It'll generate some clicks at least, right?
Dan Snyder profit 9/11. I did not know that at all. That's incredible that he had the balls to do that.
That's crazy.
Dan Snyder did 9/11. Put it on all the right wing websites. We'll wrap it up. I love it. Now here is, I'm not gonna lie, this might be my favorite Dan Snyder exploit. You guys, first of all, yeah, get your drinks in now because you're gonna probably come through your nose here in a minute if you took a sip.
I can't wait.
Again, this is also the same year. This is September or October of 2006. It says this is, by the way, this is an article from Yahoo that really chronicles like point by point all the way down through the years and stuff. They did a fantastic job of exposing all of these Dan Snyder misdeeds. This one was great. In the same month, season ticket holder Jim O'Brien notices the bag of peanuts that he bought at the stadium was decorated in royal blue and white, which is strange to be sold in a stadium which the colors are burgundy and gold. So the logo had on the peanuts said Independence Air. Independence Air was an actual airline that went out of business. I'm going to pause for effect there.
So it went out of business. He bought all their
old expired peanuts, airline peanuts, and sold them to our fans.
Oh my God.
So, mind you, they did research on this, and it says a spokesman for the Peanut Council, which, by the way, today I learned there's a Peanut Council. The Peanut Council said that the recommended shelf life of a bag of salted, roasted, and shelled peanuts is 3 months. This team was selling peanuts that were at least 9 to 12 months old. Probably longer than that, because again, you're not going to buy the peanuts right when you're going to wait until they auction the stuff off, right? They sold old expired peanuts and sold them in our stadium and didn't even change the bags, the wrappers or anything. Like, we're like, whatever, we got it.
How much a pop? Like $3 a pop, probably?
I don't know. They're making profits off of peanuts. I guarantee it wasn't
God.
peanuts. Like, the money wasn't peanuts. They were making probably a decent amount of money off of this. Crazy though.
Oh my God, that is glorious. That is so funny.
Yeah. And I mean, and this is just some of the off the field stuff that people wouldn't have seen otherwise. I mean, we know about the Albert Haynesworth deal, right? That was a terrible deal.
Oh, that was a terrible deal.
Going back to Marty Schottenheimer in 2002. he started off 0-5. Yeah, okay, that was bad. But once he got his system into place, we actually went 8-3 down the stretch. Everybody says, "Oh, he's definitely coming back. He's got his system in place. We're good to go." Guess what? He fired him 2 days after the season ended, and then hired 2 days after that.
I know
Steve
who.
Spurrier.
Yeah, I
Spurrier.
remember that.
And that was awful. The Steve Spurrier his game does not translate to the NFL.
No,
but it was
and Marty Schottenheimer, didn't he go on to San Diego and get them to
the playoffs every year? Yeah,
every year with Phillip Rivers and all of that. And Steve Spurrier came in and brought in his Florida quarterbacks to run his system in the NFL, and that was just horrible. I remember. Didn't he go 3-0 his first 3 weeks, and then ended up going 2-10 the rest of the way or something like that?
Yeah. No, his record was abysmal. He only lasted. Believe it or not, I'm surprised he lasted 2 years. He lasted 2 years. And his second year was. Hang on, sorry about that. I want to look at make sure I get this accurate. He went 12-20 over the course of his 2 seasons. So yeah, he was pretty bad. And honestly, that wasn't even the worst coach we had. Jim Zorn was the worst coach we had. He was completely unqualified for that position. Steve Spurrier at least was a competent college coach, which I guess
Jim was hired as the offensive coordinator. They couldn't find a head coach, so they promoted Jim Zorn to be the head coach. Yeah.
No, he wasn't even offensive coordinator. He was quarterbacks coach.
Oh, he was quarterback.
He got 2 promotions in one offseason, and only because no one else wanted the job. Because really, we were trying to hire Jim Fossil at the time, and then he backed out. And
Fossil, the special teams coordinator?
No, Fossil from the Giants, the guy that took the Giants to the Super Bowl against the first Ravens Super Bowl.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And so, he literally Jim Zorn was 8th choice in this whole thing, and it was only because we were well, we're out of time, we got to find a coach. That was literally how that went. And by the way, kick to the curb. Guys that probably were deserving of the head coaching position, like Greg Williams, who I know. Yes, I know he's kind of tainted now by the whole targeting. He was all about targeting Bountygate, the targeting players for injuries and stuff. But honestly, he was with the organization a long time and was there, right? He was Joe Gibbs' kind of right hand man when he left, so he thought he was going to get it. So yeah, that's
Well, you tainted also, since we're on coaches. Lest we forget, it's also on my mind because I just listened to that shameless plug, the Playmakers on The Athletic, and you had an incredible coaching tree in 2012, 2013, maybe 2011 too. Mike Shanahan, his son, and then so many future coaches in Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur and Mike McDaniels.
They were all. And they were all in the building, and we had a chance at getting all of them, and he blew it up and ended up getting Jay Gruden instead. It's and that didn't last either. And of course, then there's the whole Gruden saga after that. But one other one I think is funny. This is also, I want to say, from 2004, 2005. It was 2004, I believe. Was the ice cream incident. So diehard Commanders, Redskins fans would know this incident because it was kind of funny back in the day that your owner would take it upon himself to leave literally warm expired ice cream on someone's desk. But he did. To Mike Nolan, who was our defensive coordinator at the time, he didn't like Mike Nolan's schemes, and he called Mike Nolan's schemes vanilla. So instead of vanilla, he left other flavors of ice cream. He bought a bunch of different flavors of ice cream and left them on his desk. So when he came in on Monday morning after these games, they were melted all over his desk. And the first time he was oh, I don't know, this is weird. He thought it was a gift that he forgot to refrigerate or something. He didn't know. The second time it happened, mind you, it happened twice. It happened in over the course of multiple weeks. The second time it happened, Dan Snyder actually left a note that said, "This is what I like, not vanilla."
Oh, dude.
The pettiness of that is so great.
The absolute pettiness. But that's not even a fraction of his pettiness, because he's gone way farther than that. In fact, the next level of pettiness he has here, was during the the housing crisis, right? 2008, 2009. Everybody was reeling from that. You know, a lot of people were losing money. And
Yeah.
so you had a lady who decided, you know what, I need to basically, my budget is not going to allow me to have season tickets anymore. That's respectable. That's okay.
Those are a
Excuse me.
big investment, even for a
Yeah.
bad team.
Right. And she was, by the way, she's a grandma. She's 72 years old. Said, you know what, I don't think I can do this anymore. She was a realtor that was still working even into her 70s. And the of course 2008 financial and housing collapse happened. And so rather than honoring her request to just, you know, give up the season tickets and sell them to somebody else, Dan Snyder decided, I'm going to sue her. And he sued her the 72-year-old lady for backing out of her ticket renewal agreement, which technically is probably on the books, right? And because this lady, she couldn't even afford a lawyer, because again, she's lost her shirt in this whole housing crisis. Dan Snyder won a default judgment of $66,000. And then, even though he won, he didn't like make her pay this. But it was the fact that the fact that he even tried to sue her got in the news. And it's this right here, this one incident. I wrote here in big letters, awful PR. I don't know if it's going to show up there. Awful PR, unforced errors. His entire legacy is just that, because he didn't have to do this, but he did because he had to be right. And
this isn't even touching base, listeners, on what has finally broken the camel's back, like, and ultimately getting him out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I heard about him suing the specific person. I thought it was more recently than you said this story was, but I've heard him going to war with season ticket holders before, like more recently.
So the more recent one was over the deposits. Basically he decided, I'm going to withhold, I'm not going to give back all the deposit money for these ticket holders that you know, that he owed them. And so he just held on to the deposit money. It was refundable deposits, right? And he just held on to it. And that money, that happened in, I want to say it was 2018 or 2019. Like you said, later stages here. And
that wasn't during the pandemic, like 2021.
Maybe I think it came out during the pandemic, but it was, in terms of when it actually happened, it was before that. It was just, takes
I see.
a while for this to actually come out and actually become court cases and stuff.
I see.
And
okay.
that actually was one of the reasons why he actually got fined that $60 million, was because of some of that money was rolled in there. Was and by the way, he's still under, he's got lawsuits from the DC Attorney General, the Virginia Attorney General, and the Maryland Attorney. Like, all of them are after him. So I don't think that solves his legal problems there. Regarding those cases, because they were saying, hey, it's basically like fraudulent behavior, right? Like, you said these are refundable, they're not, but you're not going to give them back. What the heck, you know?
I think that's a good, sorry if I was interrupting a thought. I was going to say that's not a bad segue into, we could go on for literally like 3 hours about like everything that he's done.
My gosh, yeah. I mean,
but in terms of what now, because that is a good segue into what has ultimately brought about the demise of Daniel Snyder now, between financial issues, the harassment. Like, lay it out for us, like, in the very specific ways that it was worded this last week, like what was in that investigation, what was discovered, including the finances, the harassment. Like, what did Mary Jo say to ultimately convince the owners, like, this guy's done?
It wasn't really what Mary Jo even said. It was really the Beth Wilkinson case that was just rehashed, because it was the exact same thing that Beth Wilkinson would have wrote, but they didn't allow her to even write anything. It had to be verbal only. So, but basically what it came down to was Dan Snyder touched women inappropriately. He literally had one of his employees sit next to him so he could touch her leg at dinner. The next thing, the same employee, wrangled her into his limo. One night after a little drinking dinner party thing they had. Like, there were instances where he personally was responsible for harassment. And probably, if you had a sympathetic jury, I would argue that there is at least the possibility that these could have been criminal offenses in some cases. I don't know how you'd really. I think the burden of proof could be an issue, right? Because some of these happened 15, 20 years ago. People's recollections would come under fire. I don't think that it would probably result in convictions. Now, civil cases are different because civil cases, the burden of proof is based on a preponderance of evidence, not beyond a reasonable doubt. So
Right.
what that matters is monetarily. Of course, the NFL is going to say that we already fined him $60 million and he's going to go away. I think that's eventually that. I don't think that a lot of these long-term allegations are going to materialize in anything, even civil case related wise. The biggest thing that everybody wants and everybody has wanted is Dan Snyder gone. They want him out, gone. They want him irrelevant. And I think this might just do it because he's probably he's already establishing himself in England. He's got his yacht, right? He's going to live. Sure, he's got his $6 billion, but he's completely isolated now. No one wants anything to do with him. There is an opportunity for him eventually to own a lower tier soccer team or something if he wants to be relevant, if some soccer team is desperate enough. But I don't think that's going to happen because again, he's damaged goods. He's tainted. And so what the real legacy of anything that, Beth Wilkinson or Mary Jo, their reports are going to say is, hey, this guy's a bad apple and he should never have been in charge of anything in a professional league.
Well, not to completely
not just in a
skip
professional
over.
league, but a professional manner in anything.
At all, right?
Like he should, if there's a way to keep him from even owning a company with employees at all, I wouldn't let him. If there was a way that I could, as a lawmaker or something like that, with the allegations that this guy has done, how his reputation is in running businesses and just the collective totality of the incidences that he has, he should never be allowed to own a business ever again.
I don't think he will. I think he's perfectly comfortable with taking his $6 billion. Of course, he's got some debt and stuff to pay off, but aside from that, he roughly we'll call it $5 billion, right? So he's pocketed $5 billion in this deal, and he's gonna live on his yacht probably in England or whatever for the rest of his days. But it's unfortunate that I'm glad he's gone, but it's unfortunate that he wasn't even punished harsher than what he was. He probably feels right now like he's a winner. He does because he's got that money in his pocket. He basically bought a team for $800 million in 1999, and he left with $6 billion. And so that's a massive profit for him and for a generational wealth for his family and stuff like that. He's never going to think that he's wrong. He's going to think all of us were wrong.
Is there any light? I know we're pushing our time here, but is there any light? We've made note that the harassment was a massive, massive point of this and the toxic culture that he was cultivating. But how big was it, at least in your interpretation of what was going on, skimping money away from the other owners, in that collective pool that they all shared in? How big a factor was that? Because I think that's a detail that shouldn't be skipped before we go off air.
Right. No, and I think that certain owners, I think, definitely took offense to that. I think Irsay was a big one, right? He was one of the first ones to come out and said, dude, this guy needs to be gone, right? And it's because at that point you're taking money out of their families, funds, and yeah, they're all rich. Everybody in the NFL is rich, but at the same time, it's one thing to do it to other people and do it to small people, peasants and whatever, they'll overlook that every day. But when you start messing with their money and their bank accounts, they get mad. And you've seen that every single time. And by the way, Dan Snyder, part of the reason why he decided to recoup some of this money himself with some of these ticket schemes and whatever, was because the NFL fined him in the year that we had a uncapped year, right? And because of the Albert Haynesworth signing and a couple other signings that we did that were on the uncapped year, and the NFL fined us $16 million. And I feel like that moment right there really was he went on the warpath after that of I'm going to get my money back. I don't care how I do it, but I'm going to get that $16 million back. That's all he saw. He saw it as a score.
Last thing that I'll say, John Gruden's emails. That's still in court.
Yeah.
Any updates? Any predictions for that? Just that's the
No
last thing I'll
updates.
ask is the John Gruden emails.
No updates, but I do feel like prediction wise, I think John Gruden will eventually, get back into the NFL in some way or fashion. He's too good of a and too smart of a person as an NFL, level, right? Like he's a guy that people trust and respect. Even Mark Davis didn't want to let him go, right? Like he fought for him. So he's going to be back at some point. And I think he's acting as an advisor to for the Saints or something now. I think I read.
Wasn't it or no? Yeah, the Saints. You're right. It was the Saints.
Yeah, for Carr, right? So he believes in certain players a lot, and I think a lot of players respect him still too. So I don't think his reputation is going to suffer as much as like Dan Snyder's and stuff. But he'll be back. I don't think. I mean, there's going to be a long, protracted legal battle, but I don't want to even predict how that's going to go because who the heck knows? I have very little faith in the legal system.
Nobody's going to testify, and it's going to get settled. That's what's going to happen.
That's
he's going to get a check. He's going to get a check. And
even with the little victories he's already had up to this point, which have been more than most people get when they sue the NFL.
Exactly. But every single time the NFL gets to a point where they're going to have to go to court and people are going to have to testify, it just magically a check comes floating out of the air and you get, 60 million, 900 million, like the city of St. Louis. Yeah. They will pay any price not to have to testify under oath. They will. And that's just
they don't want us to see that blackmail PowerPoint.
That's exactly true.
Yeah, they don't want us to see the blackmail PowerPoint. And we know there's plenty more dirt on everybody. And it's no coincidence that after Jerry Jones came out and said we're gonna do what we can, all of a sudden a photo from like 1964 of Jerry Jones
materialized out of thin air, right?
Materialized and ended up in the press. Now,
where
that's some digging. That is really some freaking digging. But
someone was sitting on that for a while.
Yeah, it was.
I was going to say there is one thing that is a constant in the NFL, and it is that every single owner is dirty. You can't get to the position you're in without breaking a few eggs, so to speak. And so they all have dirt. They all have skeletons in their closet, and that's just. I mean, look, everything from Kraft going to South Florida and hanging out with some massages, getting some dirty massages, and
I live in Indy with Ursay. I'm aware.
Right. Everybody is dirty.
I just feel glad that my owner so far has never been in the news, that with some sort of scandal or whatnot. Like,
I'll bite my tongue with some things that I've seen done in the political field in the past couple years.
But I just, for all the fans who don't know, I am actually an Eagles fan. So, I'm glad that he's sort of kept this clean, and kept his nose clean, and we don't have to talk about that. I think, too, we probably got like another 5 minutes. I think we should talk about Steve's feelings on the new ownership and how he feels about, Josh Harris coming in with
Magic Johnson
coming in to take ownership of this team.
Yeah. For starters, it's great to have somebody who actually cares about DC. Josh Harris is from DC. Mitchell Rales, who's the kind of head minority owner, is from DC. He's big in he's got some art galleries and stuff in the DC area. Magic Johnson has piloted a lot of his businesses in the DC area, particularly his movie theater chain and some other things that he's been involved with. So none of these people are new to the DC area, which is really important because having somebody from outside would have kind of thrown a little bit of that would have been. I mean, everybody wants Dan Snyder gone, but we also wanted somebody that still has some ties to the DMV a little bit, and that's DC, Maryland, and Virginia for those who aren't aware.
Oh, is that
local.
the Department of Motor Vehicles?
No, well, I don't know. I would argue that the DMV is the Department of Motor Vehicles has been a better enterprise than and my team has been lately. But
that's a cool name for that tri-state area. I never heard that.
Yeah, the DMV. And so I think Josh Harris is going to be pretty good from what I've understood from the Philadelphia 76ers fans that have kind of shown up and kind of cheered us on. Has been he's going to be a guy, he's going to blow up the team probably initially, and he's going to put the people that he wants in there. That's to be expected. So I would not expect our Rivera or our executive staff to really remain. I expect Eric Bieniemy probably took that job knowing that he is probably going to be the next head coach, at least after Rivera's gone. And I think he sees the writing on the wall on that one too. And I think Josh Harris has already done well from a public relations standpoint, because he, for like 5 minutes after he was on the press conference announcing that he bought it, he was calling into some of the celebratory deals that people were doing in breweries and stuff, and he was buying people drinks. He said basically he paid for people's bar tabs. Like he's like, anybody that's a Commanders fan, we'll pay your bar tab. Like that's just cool, right? Like that's just like Dan Snyder would never do that, Like,
yeah, I will say
cool.
this though. I will say this as somebody who listens to W94 WIP in Philadelphia and some of the Sixers criticisms that people have had over the years with the owner. There is sometimes a disconnect with the fans. Like he wants to take the Sixers out of the sports complex that they have, where they have the Citizens Bank Park, Wells Fargo Center, and Lincoln Financial Field, where people can just go and you can catch a basketball game, a football game, all in the same day. He wants to take the Sixers and move them downtown in there. And so that sort of disconnect with the fans, I hope doesn't happen here. I will say that if there's a problem, he'll throw money at it for sure. Like that's without question. If well,
that's what you gotta do as an owner sometimes. Like sometimes it calls for you to just get out the checkbook and just eat the money.
Yeah. But I mean, he basically will pay any amount to hire an executive, a coach, or
big prospect.
Big prospects. They shelled out max contracts for Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, basically, so he is willing to spend money. Is he smart necessarily in spending his money? No. And as an Eagles fan, am I worried about the Commanders making it out of the divisional round? Not really. But still, I think, he'll build at least somebody where every year people are talking about them most likely being a playoff team.
I just want somebody who can leave us better than the position we're in right now. And that's that. If you can say that the 76ers are, the 76ers have been better since he came on board than they were before. The New Jersey Devils is another one of his organizations that he owns. They've been better than they were before his tenure. So I just kind of look at, hey, low bar to cross here this time. And the other one too is Mitchell Rales, who's the kind of head minority owner. He has made his entire career as a conglomerate. He owns conglomerations of companies that he buys at fire sale kind of smaller prices, turns them around, makes them profitable, and resells them again and stuff. If that's the biggest analogy that for the Redskins football team, Commanders, and maybe next team, which by the way, we could probably talk about that another time. Then that's the biggest analogy that I've ever heard is we need somebody just like that can turn us around in the same kind of fashion. So I think cautiously optimistic is how I would put it.
Yeah, I would definitely be cautiously optimistic. With him, he still has never won a championship in all of his sports teams and things like that. So the jury's still out on him being able to actually construct and make a winning team that wins the championship. Even his Crystal Palace, English football team still hasn't won a championship. I'm a little upset about that I root for Crystal Palace and he's the owner, but that's just where I'm at. But I think, will he spend money? Will he, and he obviously is garnering a lot of excitement, which there should be, I think. So
I think the biggest thing I'm taking away from this is that speaking from my kind of outsider perspective, my teams are the Colts and the Niners. I think though, that just the brand of football, the brand of the NFL, not just your team obviously gets a massive, massive boost from this, but bigger picture, the entire league is getting a nice little boost from it. Like the worth of the brand of the NFL, there's not a blemish quite like him anymore. Like subjectively, like you could find blemishes on anybody, but the fact that Dan Snyder was so toxic and he was in this exclusive club, how bad he was just kind of sunk everybody down with it. Just like the fact that the NFL had an owner amongst all these other owners that are sure subjectively like here or there, whatever, just a little bit of degree difference. It was obvious how bad this guy was. The fact that he's out alone, that's what I just mean. Like as the league itself, the whole league is better for this, not just you guys, but it makes me happy that the entire league, this is one last thing that we can have, because we are a month away from preseason and really getting into it, training camp and whatnot. We can go into the season now knowing that the NFL is a brand, at least for this one little glimmer of a moment, can all hold hands together and celebrate Dan Snyder burning at the stake. Like,
right. Yeah.
yeah.
And honestly, 49ers fans should be happy because you know what this did? This just raised the price of the Seahawks by like $2 billion now because now $6 billion is minimum. And good luck finding somebody that can spend that kind of money or this kind of group that can spend that kind of money now. So yeah, 49ers fans should be happy that the Seahawks are going to be like, okay, we'll probably sell, but to who? You know,
right.
They might actually have to change the rules for because again, the thing I learned during this whole process is, you have to have like a third of that cash on hand, like ahead of time. Like and not a lot of people have $2 billion.
Well, Bezos,
I was explaining that to my fiance, like how this isn't just writing a check. You have to find the owner or a group. How much do you have on hand? And yada yada yada.
Yeah. I mean, you have Bezos. He's probably going to be one of the next owners in the NFL. So. But
he'd be one of the few that has it though, is all I'm saying. So
oh my gosh, guys, we could keep going on with this for forever. We're already breaking the mold a little bit, pushing 45 minutes on this. We had to do this. We already waited 3 days, but logistics, but it was a glorious day back on Thursday. It was a glorious day. We had to celebrate. And Steve, thank you so much for coming on. Our resident draft guru. And I understand. Yeah, no, of course, man. You're always welcome on the show. James, feel free to let people know where they can reach out to us in the meantime as we inch closer to training camp preseason and football finally coming back.
Well, first of all, guys, if you can't find our apparel anymore, it is because the bonfire campaign has ended. We will be making a donation to Courtney's house in the Washington, D.C. area very, very soon. But we will have news later this week regarding our apparel and where you can get it. So stay tuned this week. Look for a video to come out relatively soon of where you can get our merchandise now that the bonfire.com account has finished and the charity drive has finished. You can reach out to us on Twitter, which is @NinerNuts. Right now, we're running a campaign where once we get if we have a tweet, if you like it, retweet it and follow us. When we get to 2,000 followers, we will pick a winner, and that person will get an exclusive Niner Nuts t-shirt on us. Also, if you like the YouTube channel, click subscribe. The first 100 subscriber will also be eligible for a Niner Nuts t-shirt as well. So just check those out. Be reminded of those facts. Reach out to us on Facebook @NinerNuts. If you're listening to us on any platform, 5-star reviews, we'll read any 5-star review on the air. And if you want to write to us and tell us how you like the show, or if you want to have ideas for the show, or just want to chat, 49ernuts@gmail.com. That's 49ernuts@gmail.com.
Yes, and I will forego checking Roto World to let you know, since we're on YouTube now, My TV has Google in it, and I don't know what happened. It's dead silent down here. My TV literally just turned on. That's why I had to disappear for a second to go turn that off, because I was loud and it scared the crap out of me. So
I didn't even
But
hear
yeah.
anything, so that's good.
Yeah, I
yeah,
didn't
no,
hear
thank
anything.
God I was muted, but that's why I disappeared, YouTubers, for just a second. I don't know. I guess my last thought is see ya, Dan. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Get out of here. Never come
All
back.
right. Outro music, River Road, Justin Youth.
River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long.